There's a lot of different options, so we can work with her. Just talked with her again today. You still got a minute, right? More like 30 seconds.
We can always start late. We can start early.
I know. Catherine's right behind me. Oh.
So.
My shoes are.
I did have a question.
She did. Oh. Good. 6:52 back here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Call the meeting to order at 6:15. Roll call vote.
House,
Here.
Mac,
Here.
Berglund,
Here.
Dr. Schoen,
Here.
Fox,
Here.
Jones,
Here.
Otto,
Absent.
Kohan.
Absent.
Okay. Reading of the district mission vision statement by myself. Our mission, regardless of who you are or what your story is, you can learn and be loved here. Our vision, creating compassionate, confident problem solvers. Our operating principles, information for one is information for all, no surprises, verify facts, think ahead, disagree and explain your thinking, and then commit. Approval of agenda.
There are 3 changes that we'll go through with Evan.
Yeah, I don't have the full information for item number 13, so I'd like to table that for now. And item 14, that's topper employee retention payment and the substitute paraeducator / bus driver retention bonus.
That's not the numbers I have.
13 is top, or 14 is the parallel.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
And then on the consent agenda, under approval of personnel resignations of Jill Strike as middle school special education, that should actually read Lincoln Elementary Special Education.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Welcome visitors for public comment. Is there anyone here who wants to comment? Okay, committee reports. Dr. Schroep. Oh,
I think that's just you.
negotiations and compensation. Okay. We had a meeting to talk about the Central Springs agreement last week and a couple other things.
We talked about the bonus structures,
On the
retention
bonus
bonuses,
structure,
but
retention
we're still
bonus, and we're gonna go on with that. We're waiting for
legal opinions.
legal opinions, so that's it. We're gonna talk about the Central Springs here in a little bit, so that's what we talked about. Which is coming up right now, the Central Springs discussion item.
In February, and we talked about this as a board and committee, Central Springs had reached out to us as a partner, yes, they need, leadership across, the schools and also with our executive leadership. And we've talked about looking at different opportunities, but there are
community has approached us and said we would love to find a way to add VOCAG and FFA to the program. So we've taken a look at that. We've put together a planning piece, and we've been in this for the last couple months. Our dilemma has fallen in as far as accreditation at our middle school. Right now, what would become our VOCAG instructor is a family consumer science. We got kind of a unique teacher with 2 accreditations, family consumer science VOCAG. If he moves to the high school, we can continue with family consumer science VOCAG, but we missed 2 periods of family consumer science in our Nora Springs campus. And therefore, we've reached out to our local schools seeking an opportunity to partner and say, do you have somebody that meets family consumer science accreditation so we can stay accredited in the state of Iowa? We need somebody for 2 periods a day along that line to have that opportunity for our students. Mike reached out and said, there's some potential here in that conversation. And so we've appreciated the opportunity to meet with Pat and David along that line. And so we've reached out saying, would you partner with us? Would you consider sharing an FCS teacher accreditation that would allow us to provide a unique opportunity that we've never had? And that's VOCAG FFA along that line. So when I look at that moving forward, I think partnering and sharing is going to be the only way we survive in rural Iowa. I look at schools, I'm a shared between Forest City and Central Springs. We're going to have to find ways to share. We share administrative positions like superintendent. We are sharing other teaching positions. I think that's the way we're going to survive along that line. The other piece I'm going to tell you is taking a look at your VOCAG FFA program is, here we are, we're going to have a chance in Central Springs if we can find the right partner to solve our teaching shortage in that one area for 2 periods. We would love to try to build something that would someday compete with Charles City, because you guys have one of the models around the state. I don't know if we can ever do that, but we would love to provide that opportunity and an opportunity to provide that for our students. So we've been working with that. We'd love to find a way to see if you could share a teacher for 2 periods out of the day at our Nora Springs campus. We would reimburse the cost of that, and we would pay mileage for the instructor to come over to Nora Springs and lead. So I keep telling people this is one of many hurdles. And when I say many, they're raising funds. We have a big fundraising group that's there. They're going to raise $400,000 for us to kickstart this. They're already well over 170,000. They got us a test plot. But I told them the first hurdle is we got to find the instructor. And so we've tried to tamper down the excitement, but it's really hard in our community because we just made the front page of our local newspaper. I know that doesn't look big, but when you take a quarter section of the 3rd page right there, the excitement is there. And I told them, though, we got to take care of things one step at a time, and the instructor's the first page. And so we're really reached out to say, would you be willing to partner? Would you help us provide opportunities to, I know not to your students here at Charles City, but we're all involved in education, and think of it on a regional basis, because partnering is going to come back to all of us at some some way, form, and fashion. So,
And two things I just wanted to add to is absolutely, we have a history of Charles City of partnering with, especially our contiguous districts, Iowa Big North, and now we're also partnering with 6 other districts with the Career Academy. Because again, when you give, you receive. You know, right now, Darwin and I have been talking about trying to find a half-time art position. It's very, very rare, but we're always trying to figure out the capacity. Number 2 is, I want to be very clear, this does not impact any of our FCS programming because we don't have capacity with our current FCS teachers. The only reason it's a possibility is we have a teacher right now that has FCS endorsement, but is not currently teaching in FCS. In discussions with her, you know, there's the possibility of making some flexibility there. In addition, I know Darwin's looking at multiple opportunities on how to make this happen, but we just definitely wanted to explore this opportunity because it could be a win-win.
Can, you have the North Springs campus, what grade level is that campus?
yeah, great question. Our Norris Springs campus is pre-K 3 and then 4-8. So this would teach our 7th and 8th grade at the Norris Springs. Our Manly campus is pre-K 3, 9-12. We have daycare on both campuses.
And maybe this is really obvious, but you know, Mason City is closer to you than we are to you guys. Is there a particular reason why, Charles, where you guys have been so gracious and suggested us?
Well, I reached out to everybody and,
Gotcha.
you know, because I thought I was tasked to leave no stone unturned. And Mike is one that reached out and we're examining that and, you know, we'd love to see if that's a future partnership. So
Sure.
everybody's at different phases in their journey. with that.
What time of day would that be?
Be first thing in the morning, it'd be 8 to about 10:15.
Okay.
Evan has run kind of the financials and then we would pay the instructor the mileage directly.
So if we did do that, then our teacher would be back here the remainder of the day.
Yes.
And it should be for next school year, right? Starting
Yes.
in August or September.
Yeah, and you know, we're just like any other high school, we're starting that planning process. So, you know, we're kind of in that dilemma where we'd love to see if we could get something finalized at some point in time. So we could finalize what our schedule looks like at the high school where kids would know. We have a voc ag program and family consumer science with that.
Do you have students that are currently taking those classes at any neighboring district?
No, we do not. We did it some different points in times in the history. They went to another district to take that. That did not go so well. Those were short-lived partnerships. And it might have been due to the timing of that. Like I said, if I could leave the paper and let you look at that, but we've got a huge community swell of support. Like I said, I think we're over 170,000 last week when I checked in for fundraising. We got a test plot that the kids they've been donated that will fund that. So we've taken some things from Charles City and modeled and said, how can we sustain these things? Has been kind of a model for that. But the sharing of that program, just because of the history of that, has not been successful.
And do you have students that have shown an interest in taking these classes, or how would that number be gauged?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do right now, we got that unique, we got one person with family consumer science and voc ag. We offer one voc ag class a semester and we're at 18 kids in that class alone. Typically along that line, we've done some real soft numbers to know that we'll probably be in that range along that line, but we think it's kind of like the field of dreams. If you build it, we think they'll come. And if you look at the support we're getting from our community in just a short amount of time, I mean, I tried to tamper this article down because until we get a teacher, this is only on paper. And I couldn't even tamper that down. They are excited and they're huge public support. But like I said, the teacher has to come first for us to stay accredited.
So this person wouldn't be going to Manly.
No,
You have someone there.
yeah, we do. This just frees up that 7th and 8th grade family consumer science accreditation things that we need to do that to make sure we stay accredited with the middle school standards that are out there from the state of Ohio.
From the North Springs perspective, how long do you anticipate a sharing agreement with Charles City?
Well, probably like any sharing agreement, both sides would have their opportunities to evaluate after every year. From my perspective, I think you got to give it a couple years to ensure that. You could have staffing changes though that could impact that. You guys may have decisions locally that you maybe need to reevaluate. But I would hope, you know, if you take a look at it, partnerships as we deal with what's coming down from the state with lack of funding, things along that line. I think partnerships are going to be the way we're going to have to pursue things down the road. You know, maybe down the road, it's, we only have a need for a, you know, a halftime teacher, but you need a halftime teacher also. And so instead of one district taking on a full FTE, those are sharing things, and it begins those conversations long-term also. So I felt like a politician. Time will tell. How about that? I'm not sure I gave you a definite answer.
And to give you a little context, these emails go out all the time. Okay, we need help, we need help. And one, rarely do we ever have capacity to help. And then number two, it seems like people just kind of ignore the emails. You know how it goes. 'Cause we have the same thing. We've been asking for halftime work and we don't even get no's. We just don't get responses. So, and we've been helped out many times. We had a great partnership with the Shell Rock with the social worker, which is now ending. But if not for that, we wouldn't have been able to, you know, we now have a full-time social worker, but we wouldn't even have the halftime if we had not had that agreement literally 3 years ago. So I just always want to pay it forward and be a good partner because we've had people benefit us in the past as well.
What time frame do we need? What's next?
I think it would be Darwin. You're working through some other plans too that maybe negate this, but also, you know, what would be your timeline in your mind?
Yesterday would have been outstanding. I'm joking. But, you know, as soon as you guys feel comfortable, we'd love to move ahead so we could get to our students, so they could get their scheduling set, that we could be prepared at the high school level. We can then prepare to have the VOCAG and FFA. The longer it takes, we'll make adjustments in their schedules. We're beginning at the next school year, but it'd be nice if we could have something in the next 2 to 4 weeks would be outstanding. Allow us to get, you know,
So if we
finish the
had
year.
this on the agenda, our next meeting to, as a consideration action item, then that would be helpful.
That'd be amazing. That'd be great. It would, you know, allow us to plan with our schedule, get the students to let them know that it would be available. And then it will also continue to allow the people that are fundraising for that. This would be the I dotted T cross. It shows that we do have the teacher and would allow them to continue and finish up their fundraising efforts.
We would then just need from you guys whether or not we actually had the teacher.
Yes,
And it was all,
and that's why I would be on record very clear. This would not impact any of our FCS programming. We're not going to use our FCS teachers to staff this. This is an additional person that's not teaching FCS right now. And so the one caveat would be we can only do this if we have the FTE, so that we just happen to have that FTE right now. So if we were to lose that for some reason, that would definitely alter the sharing agreement. It wouldn't likely be possible in that case.
Dave, you want to sort of take your last second?
Oh, the only thing I could add is that's as board, Dave, I'm board president of Central Springs, and we've been sharing Darwin with Forest City this second year now. We've got a long history of sharing with our district and neighboring districts, and we've had nothing but success with it. We're very happy with the opportunities that we've realized from those sharing agreements. So it's up to principals to make it work, but they seem to make it work very well.
thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
We appreciate you guys coming and sharing your ideas with us. It's great.
If you got any questions, we're happy to.
It would be $14,000, right? That would come into the district.
Whatever
I don't
20,
have the exact quote,
You
but
don't.
around that.
Okay.
yeah, be.
And then is there some incentive from the state too that you get or not? Because that includes that.
Not for Charles City, there isn't.
There is
For us, we'll get a little bit of sharing money. It's similar to your concurrent enrollment. So we get a small offset with that piece there. We share with Osage, similar to the middle school. We get an industrial tech teacher to come down for 2 periods. So it'd be just very similar to that concept we have with Osage would be with Charles City for the family consumer science.
And how long have you had the agreement with Osage?
That one's
A long time.
for a
Yeah.
long time.
10 years.
Dave didn't have a beard when they started.
Didn't have any gray hair.
Well, we greatly appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I'd like to note that I did get done before an hour. Thanks for your consideration. And we look forward to hearing back from you on a potential partnership.
Thank
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Darwin.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Michelle Jones would like to talk to us about equity.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and this is,
Mylara.
and then this is Jenna Eichlin, the social worker. We have one other person who's not here with us today. Her name is Emma Schmiedel. All three of us are seniors.
I'm not a senior.
Yeah. Seniors in high school. So for this whole entire semester, from the very beginning, we've been kind of talking about creating some sort of conference to put together for mental health or some type of idea. It kind of branched off of just me personally being a senior, and I haven't been able to go to like a school-wide conference in a pretty long time. I think my last time was sophomore year. So that was something that I was really thinking about, and really what the best thing that I could have done, and what Jenna suggested was putting on a conference for ourselves. So basically our mental health and equity summit is coming up soon in May. And the summit is based around student lives and how we view ourselves and the struggles that we go through, while also voicing them to adults and also sharing with each other so that we can really feel like we're not alone. So our first step was really recognizing a problem and getting educated, because we are not mental health like professionals ourselves. We felt as though we needed to learn some from other people. So basically recognizing the problem was just honestly being students and living life like as it is. We did struggle going through COVID, and lots of us felt alone and isolated while also going through feelings of left out, which is basically what high school is. Just going through and learning about yourself and what mental health is. And we all recognize that we do have a problem and that we do want to do something to solve it. And at the same time, we also met together with a couple of middle schoolers and we talked to them about what mental health means to them. And quite frankly, they don't know. All they know is that they feel certain kinds of way, and they group together in little groups and they talk to each other, but they don't talk to each other as a whole. So what we really wanted to do is bring each other together for this conference so that we could talk about how mental health affects us, and then how also like equity in mental health also affects us.
Some of the help that we had was Jenna's student social work intern. Her name was Hallie. She was kind of a really big proponent in helping us stay on track and keeping us motivated, and she really helped us. Well, she taught us a lot because, like Michelle said, we don't know everything. We're not mental health professionals. And like there would be times, like obviously we are motivated to do this. This is something we really care about and we want to teach people. But there would be times where we'd get stuck and we weren't sure where to go with it. And she would definitely keep us on track and make sure that we knew what we were doing and how to get back to focus. And she helped a lot with the 8th graders. Like Michelle said, they really like don't know a whole bunch about mental health and equity. And there would be things you would say and they just really wouldn't be aware of the issue. And so it was really important for us to be able to teach them. And it really helped us stay motivated on doing this conference because it made us realize there are people that need to know about this that just don't. And NAMI is one of our other like speakers, our keynote speakers. We saw them in a little presentation that they did like a couple months ago, where they taught us a lot about mental health and recognizing the signs and seeing how it can affect people in schools. And they talked about like adults and them needing to see the signs as well. And it was a really big eye opener for us because there was stuff that we still didn't know, even though we had been planning this conference, and it was important for us to understand that before we got further into it. And so that was just a really big special moment for us, I guess, in seeing them do that and teaching us more.
So the next part of our journey was basically finding keynotes. We took a lot of time finding Harvey. He's from Eldridge, Iowa, and it was like gold mine when we found him. So we're like, we want somebody to come and speak at our school, but it's kind of expensive to pull people from like other states or like so far away, or people who pay so like who want to be paid so much to come and speak at a school. Well, when we reached out to Harvey, he was actually pretty surprised because he had never seen a student-led conference like this, and he was very willing to talk to us. We set up a Zoom call and we basically talked about Harvey and his journey. So Harvey played professional football for a very long time, and he had to go through the hoops to get to the NFL. And he played on a lot of smaller teams, like through like kind of clubs, but he was not at the professional level. Well, he did end up signing to an NFL team, but about a week after he signed, he injured himself and he lost the opportunity to play on an NFL team. And he has wrote many books and he's presented at many different places. He's presented for Sam's Club, for Iowa State, and for Western Illinois, and he's done a lot. And basically what he talks about is mental health in sports. And Jenna and I had a conversation one day where we talked about how our athletes react when things don't go the way that they want them to. And then how they also are they're not very capable to realizing that mental health is very important because they're taught not to. They think that when you hurt yourself, it's you have to be better, you have to get better. Things happen for a reason, but they don't know how to deal with that fact. And Harvey is coming in to talk about that, which is very important to us and also him. He has a couple children, and they all go through mental health therapy, and him and his wife too, because he sees the importance that we see in mental health, and he wants to share it with athletes and students in general who are in activities all over the place. Something that really stuck with me that Harvey said, and that NAMI also said during their presentation, is about the students who feel like they have to have everything, dot the I's, perfect all the time. They feel like they have to have everything okay, so they are not able to not be okay. And that's really something that hit home for us, because we're like, this is something that people need to know. And it's not even in just sports. It's the kids who play the instruments. It's the kids who sing in the choir. It's the kids who feel like they don't have talent, but they're really good in the arts. They have problems in their lives and they don't know how to come to terms with them or even express their feelings that they do have. And Harvey has been very gracious in like us talking to him, and he's been willing to come down here for less than he normally does because he sees the compassion that we have for our project and how badly we want to share it with other people. So for our whole entire day schedule, our conference will be from 11 to 3, and it's basically just like kind of like a regular summit. But one really interesting part that we picked out was for our breakout sessions. So in the morning, it'll be like the welcome and then the NAMI keynote. And then after the NAMI keynote, where they talk about mental health and students, we will branch out for lunch and then go into our first breakout session. Our first breakout session talks about, we have somebody coming from the University of Iowa. He was director of student affairs. He is in the LGBTQ plus community, and he'll be presenting about, in his little space, about how adults can see the signs in students and basically teach them about what it feels like to grow up as somebody who's not seen as like right. He knows what it feels like to be, he's from a very small town, he's from Clarksville, Iowa. So he knows what it feels like to not see people like himself, and he had to go through that process by himself. So basically what he'll be talking about is teaching adults and talking with adults about how to see the signs in students and how to correctly talk about those signs as to not single out a student or to make them feel even more isolated. Another part of our breakout session, which we came up with, which is a pretty good idea, is if we had one thing where if you know and you've heard about all these things in the keynote, where you could talk about it and have open discussion with other people who may already did know, or that you want like more information from other people who also listen to it. So we have an open discussion period where basically there'll be prompts that people can have just open discussion about what they heard about, but then also learn from other people that maybe they didn't hit in the keynote. And then our next part would be Harvey, and he'll talk about his career as an athlete while also talking about like self-confidence and mental health in activities. And then he will have a Q&A where people can, or students can ask about anything that they'd like to, whether that be from the sports aspect of it or the mental health aspect of it. And then we'll have another open discussion breakout session. And then our next part, Charles City and Equity keynote, will basically be myself, and I'll be talking about Charles City and Equity, and basically talking to other schools and inspiring them on how we came up with this idea to do it ourselves, and how students like ourselves can do the exact same thing in their communities. I didn't say that we're also inviting students and faculty from other schools to come as well, in just small groups to join us to talk about it. So then our ending workshop will basically be where people get a time period to talk with people that they came with about ideas to implement in their school, or even just recognizing the fact that there is an issue that needs to be addressed in their school. And then we'll have the closing at 3 o'clock. So basically, it's really important for us to go through and talk about things that we feel in our schools and the way that we feel personally, because at the end of the day, the only person that you're with is yourself. When you're laying in your bed, it's just you. Whether you're married, whether you have a partner, or whether you're just alone with your dog or your cat or whatever, it's just you by yourself. And people need to be more comfortable speaking about the mental health problems that they have, or even if they don't have something that's diagnosed, whether they just feel upset someday and they don't know how to process that. Just had a big loss and you feel like it's your fault. You let the team down. And lots of people don't know how to deal with that. And we want to share with different students and even adults how students feel and how to make ourselves feel better. So that's basically the drive of the whole entire conference, the summit, is because we want people to feel more comfortable with themselves and with others. So.
How long have you guys been planning this for?
Since
October.
yeah, October, January.
You guys have a well thought out plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Jenna helped us a lot. She really did. What Jenna kind of did is she really gave us the space in the middle school in her office, and she just like threw us out. She said, go.
Go.
Yeah.
Roll.
Mhm. Do your own thing, come up with your own ideas. And whenever we needed somebody to be there for us to go through like the more cynical side, like, oh, maybe we should think about this part before we do this part. Jenna was always there to support us, and she was always a great mentor for us to do that.
Michelle, how many of you did this?
It was Shemaya, myself, and another student, Emma Schmiedel. who's not here today. So it was just us three.
And then initially, they did have some 8th graders that they were mentoring as well, but unfortunately, that did not end up the way we wanted it to, so it really ended up with the seniors kind of taking most of the responsibility, as you can imagine, so.
Right. It didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but they got the opportunity to learn, which is pretty interesting because we had a very different group of students. They were very interesting. Some of the students were troubled, and that's kind of what led to the end of it. But they did at the end of the day learn different things about themselves and how to like navigate their lives.
What was the date again? Is it the 11th and 14th?
The 14th, May 14th.
And how many schools have you invited to come?
We have invited most of the schools on our conference, and we're still waiting for responses from a couple of the schools. But so far, we have some students from other schools. So basically, just about everybody.
We've also put it out to UNI students and Warburg students. Thanks to Mike, we kind of had an in with some UNI professors that were very interested in what we're doing around mental health. So there may be also some college students who follow along the same lines with the mental health issues as our own students and high school students.
Where are you gonna have this at?
We did reserve the Comet Gym, so we'll be having our keynotes in the Comet Gym. And then our breakout sessions will be in the 8th grade space in like 2 of the classrooms or in the open gathering space. Along with like talking to other schools on Facebook, we do have a promotion that we just put out with Justin with 93 zip codes. So that goes on to the people that we have invited.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Okay, Justin, ready to talk to us about the open meetings and open records laws?
So in your attachments, there were 2 Iowa codes, super exciting reading, Iowa Code Chapter 21 and 22. And so I'm going to go over those with you. The purpose of tonight is to make sure that you stay legal and that you don't get sued personally and that you don't get the district sued. And that you are maintaining all of the things that you need to do to continue. One note here, I am not your attorney. I do not play one on TV. So if you really get into the nitty gritty and I can't answer your question, that is who you go to, and that is who we've got several attorneys that we can contact, and we can do this. So definition of a meeting. So a gathering of persons by electronic means or in person. You can do electronic meetings, you can do in person, where there is deliberation upon any matter that's within the scope. That's important. That's in section 21.2. The next thing is a quorum. So at 6:14 tonight, you did not have a quorum. At 6:15 tonight, you did have a quorum. You were missing a couple of people because you had a meeting beforehand. So you need 3 people for a quorum. There are 5 people here. And the student board members do not count towards that quorum. The superintendent, the board secretary does not count towards that quorum. You need 3 board members here for that. And then when there is deliberation or action upon any matter within the government's body or policy-making duties. So you have to have those 2 things. So one of the things that you're gonna see is, does this apply to all your task forces? Does this apply to all your subcommittees? And that is a yes. If membership includes a quorum of the main body, the group is likely to be covered by this law. Okay, next one. Does it affect all of your committees of the board? The public may attend all of your committee meetings, and we publish notices on those meetings in the proper way. So we go through and we say, we put them on our bulletin board, and we're gonna go over what we do prior to a meeting, but those are open to the public, and those are open to anyone who wants to come and do that. Can you gather together socially? That's a big one. Yes, you can, but you cannot discuss anything that is subject to any business related items. So really, this is what you're looking at. It becomes a meeting when the quorum engages in official discussion on matters over which they exercise judgment. Here's the important thing. We take an extra step. We are very transparent in what we are doing. And here's a good thing. If we know that 3 of you are going to be at an event, then we're going to publish a social agenda. And here's a really good example. We were paying very close attention on who was going to come to the CNA graduation. We invited, you were all invited to that. And if we knew that 3 of you were going to be there, Evan would have put together a social agenda saying, you are all going to be in the same room. You're going to be there for 20 minutes. You aren't going to talk about anything. You aren't going to debate anything. But in the spirit of transparency, we want to make sure that everyone is aware that you are all in the same room. So can you email each other and talk about government business? If you want to share an opinion or debate policy, that should be saved for right here and right now. You should not be discussing things other than actual facts through your K-12 email, your school email. One of the things that you'll notice in your email is that it is open record. Anyone from the public can say, I want to see what Josh is saying to Pat, or what Janice is saying to Catherine, or what David is saying to Pat. And they can go and they can pull that. If you look at the bottom of your email, that message is on the bottom of every email, completely district-wide. My emails, every teacher's email is open to public record. So let's just get around that. Let's just use your private email for everything. That's a huge no-no, huge no-no. And what happens with that is your personal email account that you just used now becomes subject to open records. And that means that someone's going to have to go through that and say, your correspondence with your wife has to get filtered out. And that's probably going to be at your own expense because you used your public record. Here's a big one that is very critical, and the state is paying very close attention to this, and the subject to a lot of criticism at the Iowa legislature right now. It's called a walking quorum, which is serial communication among individual members of a government body, either in person or electronically, with the intent to skirt the open meetings law. I'm going to give you 2 examples. One is, and this is an example that I've read, where a board member scheduled a 7 a.m., a 7:30 a.m., an 8 o'clock, and an 8:30 meeting in a different district with board members. They were in the same spot. That one board member, they'd come in, they'd talk, they'd discuss everything. They were never in a quorum together, but they had a walking quorum. The other thing that you have to be careful of is text messages. If you text, which you'll find that when we have communication to get to you, that is one of the things that we do. A senior leader or I or Mike or someone will email you the information, and then we may text and say, check your email. And it will be factual only, and it will be, here's what's going on. And a really good example of that is our commitment to you, that when there is an ambulance call or a fire call or a police call to a school, we make sure and let you know that so you're fully aware of that. So please be careful with walking quorum, stay away from that. Do the members of the public have the right to speak at a meeting? So this is a great thing. At the beginning of the meeting, we have a provided time where the agenda is available and anyone can come and do public comment. After that, members of the public have no right to participate in the discussion of an item unless they are on the agenda. The next thing is there are rules that this board specifies for that. They're read for during public comment. The president asks, does anyone wish to speak? And then those rules are read. It takes about 3 minutes to read that. So we don't read that at every meeting, but we read it before we know somebody wants to speak. Here's the important thing, and this also goes not only for you, but for everyone in the community as well. When somebody gets up and gives public comment, you may not respond to that public comment. You may not say, well, here's what you need to know. Here's the things that you didn't know about that, and give response. You can't do that. And here's the reason why. It's a violation of Iowa sunshine laws, because now what you've done is you're starting to get into a conversation that was not on the agenda. And so you are at a disadvantage for that, but you cannot start a conversation that was not previously on the agenda. So who controls the agenda? Board secretary, the board president, and the superintendent control the agenda. All right. So getting ready for a meeting. Before tonight, this is what had to happen in order for you to have a meeting. Public notice was given 24 hours in advance. The date, the time, the place, and the tentative agenda has to be on the agenda. That's the board secretary's responsibility. A notice of the meeting must be sent to any news organizations requesting it. That happens. I see a copy of it whenever it goes out. That happens as well. So that happens by the board secretary. A notice must be posted in a prominent place accessible to the public at the government office. For you, that office is central services. There's a bulletin board where all of the agendas are posted for all committee meetings and for everything that happens with the district that is open and accessible to the public. All right, so that's what we are legally required to do. Here's what we do in addition to that, because we go above and beyond in transparency. Number one, we place this on our website. Board secretary takes care of that. So you can always go to our website. It's easy and it's more convenient than it is for most people. Most people find it much easier to go to the website than they do to walk into central services and look at the bulletin board. Okay, it's a 21st century bulletin board, but we don't have to do that. That is something that we choose to do for transparency. Number two, we are the only government organization that live streams our regular meetings. So those are the two links that you can get at. We're live streaming this meeting right now. And so we take care of all of our regular meetings that happen, and we are above and beyond in transparency. So during the meeting time, the doors must be unlocked. All right, and the doors must be open. Here's a really good example. I saw that we're dismissing from a concert tonight, and there was a little bit of noise in the hallway. We got up, we closed that door, that's fine. However, if there would have been noise outside of this hallway, somebody would have said, hey, Mr. DeVore, can you go shut that door because there's a lot of noise in the hallway? Not to be rude, I would have told you no. I will not do that because the doors must be unlocked, the doors must be open. You have to start and end the meeting in open session. You cannot go right into open session. You have to go in, and we're going to go over closed session in just a second. But public hearings also, you have those periodically throughout the year. Public hearings may begin after the specified time that's on the agenda, but they may not begin before. You cannot start your meeting at 6:10 instead of 6:15. You cannot start a public hearing before that time. You have to go after. It doesn't matter if you're right on time, but you have to go after. All right, so on the agenda information must be reasonably sufficient to alert interested people as to the subject matter to be considered. Locally, this has been an issue, not for us. Locally, this has been an issue. The agenda must specify and state any issues that the board intends to discuss in closed or open session. If it's not on the agenda, you may not discuss it. It has to be on an agenda. All right, closed session. You've had a lot of closed sessions recently. So as we're going through this, think about how that's worked. You have copies of chapter 21 and 22 in your packet. There are specific reasons to go into closed session. I'm not gonna read those to you. I'm not gonna go over that. Please look those over. There are about 8 different reasons why and how you can do that. There are very specific reasons. If you have questions on that, seek advice. But if you have questions, please look that up. I'm not gonna take 15 minutes and read that to you. So no additional topics may be discussed. You cannot say, we're gonna go into closed session to discuss topic A and then spin off into topic B, C, and D. Even though it may be related to topic A, you may not do that. You have to stay on topic. The sessions must be recorded. So earlier tonight, Evan had a audio recorder. Those sessions will be recorded. They're digitally recorded. They're kept for 1 year and then they're destroyed. And then they are not for public record, but they can be subpoenaed and they can be, they can come back and say, okay, here's what, there's an allegation of wrongdoing. And so it can be sent off to an attorney to double check. Final action on any matter in closed session must be done in open session. You cannot take action in closed session. No action can occur in closed session. Thank you. Okay, so continuing with closed session, you have to do a roll call vote to go into closed session, and that roll call vote must be 2/3 of the people who are present. So you have to have at least 4 out of 5 people say, yes, we want to go into closed session. If you don't have that, you may not go into closed session. And then the reason for going into closed session must be publicly stated and referenced and announced publicly. The board may decide who can be present at a closed session. That was a question that came up a couple of weeks ago. The board can say, yes, we want to have a couple of principals in here. You can say you want the senior leadership team in here. You can say we want these people in the closed session. You can do that. Any business discussed during closed session must relate directly to the specific reason. I've said that once before. I'm going to say it again, to the reason that you are going into closed session. And then once again, no action can occur in closed session. Please, once again, stick to your agenda items for which you go into closed session. Do not stray off of that. You've had several closed sessions recently. I'm going to let you, ruminate on how you've done there and any changes that you would want to make to that when you're at home. So, all right, what happens if you have an oops and you make a mistake? Here are the violations that come along with open meetings laws. Damage is going to be assessed by any member who participated in the violation up to $500, but not less than $100. So you're going to face a personal fine. This is not going to be covered by the district. This is going to be a personal fine. Okay. Here's the problem. A knowing violation can cost between $1,000 and $2,500. Unfortunately, I'm giving you this presentation tonight. This is going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to quadruple your fine or it's going to keep you safe. So, I mean, that's the one thing. I'm taking away now the fact that you didn't know about the violation. So here are the defenses to this. So you can, if you voted against the closed session and you went into closed session anyway, okay, you voted against it. You're the 1 out of 5 that voted against it. That would, that's going to hold you back from damages. You had a good faith belief in the facts that, if true, would have indicated compliance with Chapter 21. That you would have reasonably relied upon a written opinion of the Attorney General or legal counsel for the school district. So if the school district or Attorney General says, yeah, you can go into closed session, and then they come back and say, no, you shouldn't have gone into closed session, but you relied on the AG or the legal counsel, you're fine, you're good, you've got a defense. And you have reasonably relied upon a written opinion of the Iowa Public Information Board. So if the Iowa Public Information Board comes back and says, yeah, you're fine, and then they find out later that you're going to get a case study written up about you, and we're going to go over some case studies a little bit later. But I'm pretty sure when they goof up, they're going to have you covered. The other thing I want to warn you about and give you, kind of a heads up on is be careful about the meeting after the meeting or the meeting before the meeting. So, so be careful of discussion topics before or after the meetings, which would violate Iowa open meetings laws. So don't talk about what's on the agenda before the meeting. Don't talk about what's on the agenda after the meeting, especially if it's more than two of you. If it's three of you, you've got a walking quorum again. And so you need to be careful of that. All right, open records. This one's going to be a little bit shorter. The term records, basically anything that you guys see is an open record, and is able to be turned over to the media, and is able to be turned over to anyone in the public. So any contract, anything that comes up in front of you, any exhibit, those are all open records. Basically anything that is an email, website, blog, or recording or tape is all open records. Confidential records. There are a list of records that shall be kept confidential under 22.7 of the Iowa Code. You're gonna have help. Someone's gonna say, this is not able to be released, this is confidential. And for the most part, knowing that anything that any of your emails, any of your documents that come in front of the board, any of that is public record is what you need to know. For the most part, anything that's confidential is pretty much gonna be handled by central services staff. All right, here's some interesting advisory opinions. I went through about, on Iowa Public Information Board, I went through probably 70 advisory opinions since they've been in operation. These are the ones that I thought were pretty interesting and applied to you. Public comment restrictions at open meeting. Does an official have the authority to ban specific subjects and regulate the content of a message from being discussed during the public comment section of the meeting? So here's the thing. Can I get up and can I talk to you about how space aliens are coming and abducting my thoughts in the middle of the night? You said, you were kind of saying,
Yeah.
yes, okay. Anyone else want to weigh in? Okay, go ahead. The Open Meetings Act provides no mandate that the public agency must provide meeting time for any citizen with something to say. So if it is not pertinent, if it is just, you have somebody who comes every single time, and you're not going to know if it's pertinent before they stand up and start speaking, and 3 minutes is going to be 3 minutes. But if you have somebody come up every single time that's every single time off topic, and it has nothing to do with the school, and they're talking about street repairs, and you've redirected them 5 different times about street repairs not being part of this government body, and that needs to be directed someplace else, you can actually time out, thank you so much, and you can interrupt them, and you can say, this is, you can control that. And so you can put a stop to that. You can limit the topics to be discussed during public comment period, and a government body may set limits on audience participation. All right, number 1. Number 2, are the allowable attendees at a closed session limited, or is attendance at the discretion of the members of the government body? So you're going into closed session. You're talking about whatever you're talking about, and you want some extra people there. Can you invite extra people?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Go ahead. Closed session guests is at the discretion of you who may come to closed session meetings. Public records maintained on privately owned electronic devices. Are emails, text messages, documents loaded on privately owned devices such as cell phones or private computers subject to an opens records request?
Yes.
Absolutely. If a government official uses privately owned electronic devices such as cell phones for official government business, then the record generated is a public record. Your school-owned device is what you should be using during public meetings and for school business. If not, then you're basically going to have to cover that, and it is completely accessible, and someone's going to have to scrub that. And you're probably going to have to pay a lawyer to scrub that so that correspondence between you and your wife are not, or you and your spouse, excuse me, are not picked up and broadcast as if it were public record. All right. So in review, Conduct business during the meeting, not before the meeting and not after. Avoid walking quorums. I can't stress that enough. I've seen text messages, I've seen cases where text messages get subpoenaed. I'm seeing just things where you think organizations think they're fine, boards think they're fine. And I'm not saying school boards, but I'm saying other government agencies think they're in good shape because they think they're abiding by the law, and they end up getting slapped on the hand with a walking quorum. Stay on your agenda topic. If you stray off of that, then you need to reset and go back to what the agenda topic is. And if you really need to discuss whatever the spinoff is, then you need to have that as a separate agenda item later, in 2 weeks when we meet again. And start and end all meetings in the public. Use your school-owned devices for school-related business. The president controls the meeting. Documents that come to you are open and are during open meetings or open records, and just plan for that. And I also want to stress, as we go above and beyond in transparency, and we have, and we will continue to do so, and we are the only government agency that is live streaming the way we are. Every government agency through the Charles City Public Access Network records their meetings, and then they go onto a website for storage, and then they are accessible anytime. But right now, you can actually watch us live. You can see this conversation live, and that is something that we do for transparency. Any questions that you have?
We're using our school email, not on a school device, because we gave our school device back during COVID. So kids could use it. But you're still using your school email?
Your school email is open records.
Right.
So that's clear. I would say you're in a gray area. If it were me, I would be making sure I'm using a school-owned device. Because I would also say that if you are typing something that, here's what I would say, your entire device is going to get pulled for open records. So your entire device is going to get pulled.
So if we gave our computer back, as I did, and Pat must have done during COVID.
Talk with April. And if you want it back, I would talk with April and say, might be time to get that device back. And I understand it's convenient. I understand that you check your, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4 personal devices up here.
Since you access these on the web, I can access that from any computer. And I've accessed it from multiple different ones that don't even belong to me.
Mm-hmm.
But my school one is the primary one.
Mm-hmm.
So I couldn't tell anybody how many that I had access. Agenda on a number of different computers.
Understood. So your Gmail account is the main thing that I would say someone's going to go for. And so I would say, I'm looking at, like I said, I'm looking at 4 devices that you're using during a public meeting. And so what I would say is, if it's me, I'm erring on the side of caution. It's a gray area. I would certainly use during a public meeting, I would be using my school-owned device and my k12.ia.us address to be safe. Because if someone says, Dr. Schroep, you're using your cell phone during a meeting. And they could come in and say, I wonder what you're doing on your cell phone during the meeting. And you can say, well, I'm certainly looking at the board exhibits, because we sent you chapter 20 and chapter 21 and chapter 22. You're pulling that up and you're looking at that.
exactly.
And that's what I'm assuming that you're looking at.
Yeah.
And so,
But it's on the school one too.
Right.
Yeah.
so if you get a text from your spouse during the meeting, is that open records? You're on your school device. I mean, you're not on your school device, and so there's a question. And so if you were to get a text from the hospital during a meeting,
Well, I actually did.
right,
And I do frequently when I'm on
Yes.
call.
Yep.
And so, no, those, that's just, that's weird. So the only thing that's even bizarre.
Who would bring
I mean,
charges,
yeah,
for example? Who would come looking, say, I want to see your,
Yeah, you know, I spend a lot of time on calls. Sometimes I have to be here when I'm on call. And unfortunately, I can deal with a lot of it. Sometimes I have to go answer a phone call.
sure,
Sometimes I just do it on text. And then that's happened several meetings,
Sure.
actually happened earlier today. So just because I have to do that, doesn't, that means that I have my school provided one. Also, anything I do with the school, I access off the web.
and I understand that, and I get that.
Mhm.
I'm not the gatekeeper here.
Yeah.
So
Everybody wants to-
I'm trying to keep you from having problems. I'm trying to provide you with the information so that you don't have problems.
Yeah.
And that we continue the transparency that we have.
Have.
So, and I am proud of the fact that this government agency, that this organization has gone above and beyond in transparency, and that we will continue to do so. All right, if you have other questions, please let us know. Feel free to email me, and we will get them answered, and if I can't answer them, I will find somebody who can. Thank you.
Okay, our next agenda item is an action item. The pool bid.
Is Jerry coming up to talk?
What?
Is Jerry coming up to talk?
He's
Jerry, will
over
you come up
there.
just to talk? Come on, Jerry.
I do have one question about bids. What is well, yeah, when do we need competitive bids? And did we have competitive bids with this?
Correct,
one?
we had competitive bids.
Okay. I must have forgotten.
Anytime over 50,000, you have to have competitive bids over, I think it's one, I can't remember the exact number, then you have to have sealed competitive bids. Anything over 139, you have to have an engineer or architect involved. So,
Okay,
yes,
so these, we must have been presented with competitive bids at
correct,
some point in time.
Correct.
Okay.
correct.
So Jerry, when
Yeah.
you mentioned the 139, is that the project as a whole or an individual item?
Individual, and that's sometimes like when we do two roof projects, you could bid those together if you wanted to, or you could keep them separate. Because there's some projects where you don't need an engineer involved, but it gets you over that price, so if you can separate them out. And that's what this
Like this
project
one
is,
here.
because it's really two different projects with installing an overhead door. It's a completely different company than doing the pool fill.
So
So,
Mhm.
what we're talking about here is essentially just filling in the pool, doing the concrete, like we talked about filling it in. Basically making one just flat surface in there and then putting in a 14 by 14 door
yeah,
on the south end or
it will be on the east
on
side
the east side.
towards
Okay.
the south end,
And then that will just be so we can get things in and out.
correct. The main purpose you gotta put it in is because you gotta get the equipment in. They're either gonna cut a hole and then have to patch it back up, but then with having that door, we might as well put a door in, because then we have it available if we want to do something different with that. Say in the future, we want to use it for storage for vehicles or something. It's available then, if this gets approved.
So is it, I don't know, maybe the proper term, but a secured garage door? You know, like the garage door in my house is probably not as secure as what we would expect to put in a building like this with a roll door that's made out of steel or something.
Yeah, it's as secure, it'd be as secure as what all the doors are on the operation complex where central services is, all the buses,
Okay.
vehicles, all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we decided what the long-term use of this area is or what our long-term goal for this area is?
At the last meeting, when we just had discussion item,
Mhm.
we're just doing this for then in the future, we could do whatever we want with it. So we thought at this time, since it is gonna be heated and cooled, it'd be a good time, since we have the funding to be able to do it, get it this way, so it's usable space, whatever we want to use it for. And then in the future, we can decide if we want to use it for something. We'll polish the concrete once it's done, so it'll be an attractive place, so you can use it for a variety of different things.
And where did we say this money is coming from? Which fund?
This will be from our, I think,
Pebble,
yeah,
come out of our Pebble
our
account.
Pebble, but it'll,
Both of them?
reserves.
Both of them?
Correct, yep. So anything over $500 for facilities. will come out of Pebble.
I'll make a motion to approve Baker Enterprise Incorporated to fill in the pool for $131,500. And to approve Cardinal Construction to install a 14 by 14 overhead door for $45,475.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Baker Enterprises Incorporated to fill in the pool for $131,500 and to approve Cardinal Construction to install a 14 by 14 overhead door for $45,475. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion passes. 5-0.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Calendar public hearing.
As you recall, with our negotiations, we changed it to 30 minutes of a duty-free lunch. Well, because of that, it's coming from 25 minutes to 30 minutes. It adjusted our hours, which again, we had plenty of hours to cover that, but we have to officially amend the calendar. So this would be the public hearing time, and then we'd move into the action item for that.
Okay. Is there any comments? Any comments? Last chance, any comments? I received no written comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the action item.
Let's say close.
Oh, I'm closing the public hearing. And opening up the action item on the 2022-23 school calendar revisions.
I will make a motion to approve the 2022-2023 school calendar revision as presented.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 2022-2023 school calendar revisions as presented. So any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries 5-0. The stock epinephrine auto injector supply policy, second reading.
Yeah, I'd make a motion to approve the stock epinephrine auto injector supply policy second reading as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve stock epinephrine auto injector supply policy, second reading as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's been approved 5-0. Number 13 and number 14 are tabled. Food service contract.
So my recommendation after working with our food service staff and then also with Jerry Mitchell, Paige Ellsburn, and Evan Martin, who are a big piece of this, to go ahead and renew our agreement with Taher. I really want to say in the last year, we've been very pleased with Taher's performance. We set up a better communication rhythm with them, having weekly and monthly meetings with their leadership. They've been very communicative with us now, have really resolved a lot of the issues. We had a pretty, candid meeting with them. Gosh, how was that, Josh, a year ago or a year ago? And I've been very impressed that they've leaned into that. Also want to thank our food service people because they've had a couple of really hard summers of summer food service going through all the way through July and August. So I'm pleased to recommend that I would recommend that we extend our contract with Taher.
So Mike, let me ask you, if we don't extend this contract, what will happen?
We would have to go back out to bid, that correct? And we have to seek bids.
Okay.
Which is a very extensive process, obviously. So we have to put an RFP together for that.
I'll make a motion to approve the fourth extension to the food service management company agreement with Tahert Incorporated for $3. Seven. I don't know.
742, yeah.
$2 per meal.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fourth extension to the food service management company agreement with Tahoe Incorporated for $3.7842, $3.7842 per meal. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. How do we get 0.0042 cents per meal? Is that rounding down or rounding up? I just want to understand how they do that.
Well, if you have 1,000 meals, you just times that by 1,000.
I guess and they just, that's how they get it. Okay.
That's per meal, so. it's
It's kind of like
stock
gas
price.
prices in the commodity market.
Yeah, it's just, we just keep going out there with numbers behind the decimal point. Okay, I just had a question about that. Thank you for the clarification.
I'm sorry, I could not read that percentage decimal number. Monitoring.
Yeah, so what are they, hundreds, thousands? I don't know.
Next.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. It's been approved 5-0. Consideration of the, oh wait, yeah,
I
all
mean-
right, consideration of consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I will second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as amended. Is there any discussion?
Discussion consent agenda.
When? No
No
discussion.
on
consent.
consent agenda.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
No.
Yeah, aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Opposed, same sign, or say no. Sorry, you guys. All right, it's been moved to, the consent agenda is approved as amended. Any big ideas people have from the meeting?
From this particular meeting,
Yes.
it was interesting to hear the student equity committee. It was interesting to see that. So thanks for
Good
doing that.
job, Michelle.
Yeah, she did a great job.
Michelle is welcome to speak at every meeting.
Anything else?
I think I really want to point out that this board and multiple boards worked very hard to repurpose all of North Grand. That was something when I got, we didn't have any purpose for it. Now, literally every square foot's going to be used. And, you know, while it's not to final specs yet, be having a flat surface is air conditioned and heated, there's a lot of possibilities. And any possibilities are going to require us to do what we're doing. So thank you to the board for seeing this through.
Can I have a question about the upcoming important dates?
Okay, we can move on to the.
Yeah, we'll wait till you get there.
Okay.
Yeah. So the question relates to, do we need to change this meeting? Finance Director Evan Martin. Or is the current time and date of the meeting? Okay?
I need 24-hour notice to post an agenda for the committee meeting. So if you guys would like to change it. we need time. Happy to do so.
Do we need to change it?
I would say no.
Okay.
I would like to.
You'd like to?
Mhm.
Okay.
So
So,
who's involved in the finance committee meeting?
So that would be Director Mack and Director
oh, you,
Fox.
sorry.
Myself. And any other guests.
Yeah,
that we should invite.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Why, you guys have a meeting every Monday.
Yeah. We just have to post the agenda.
Oh,
So I think we're gonna, so should we
The
just change it?
the reason that I would like to have the time of this meeting is because we have to have it, or the committee needs to discuss a salary for an interim superintendent along with a couple of other things, and can't make an announcement about a contract until we have that decided.
So you want to move it to the 27th?
Is Wednesday the earliest you can have it?
Well, the 24 hours
Yeah,
would put us at,
yeah,
Unless you want to have it at 8 o'clock or something.
no, Wednesday.
yeah. I like that. much better. And I can't actually tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, so I have another meeting, so,
So Wednesday,
yeah.
Wednesday at noon?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Anything else? The meeting is adjourned at 7:28 PM. Thank you.
Yeah.